My name is Amanda.
And I'm Kristin.
And we are the Exorcisters. So sit back, relax, and let's get creepy. Welcome to episode 4. We are going to be talking about Audition that came out in 1999, at least in Japan.
Yes, multiple releases in different countries.
So it spans from like 1999 to 2001. And if you find this movie, obviously we're talking about it, so we highly recommend it, but it is subtitled.
Yes, it is. It's Japanese horror, so...
And it's worth the subtitles.
I think so. I think it's really well written. There are some subtitles where you're not quite sure what's going on still.
Yeah.
But I think it's worth it.
I do too. This is the most notes I've made on a movie yet. And it was really hard because I was watching it and I was trying to read what was going on.
And make notes.
Yeah, so I would be like watching the screen and writing notes, and so my handwriting is just god-awful in some of these. So the premise of this movie is it opens with this woman in a hospital bed with her husband next to her. Mm-hmm. She's clearly dying, and while he's at her bedside on his knees next to her, she does pass away. Mm-hmm. And his young son comes in, and it was awful. He brought an art project for his dying mother, and he walks in the room, and she has gone, and he's like, I brought this for mommy, and the dad's like, oh shit, how do I tell him? Mm-hmm. And then it cuts to 7 years later, and it's the dad and the son, and he's a teenager, and it was really sweet. I thought their relationship was really sweet.
Yeah, I agree.
I even wrote down, it opens with them fishing and kind of bantering back and forth about the size of the fish they're catching and this little contest, and it even has a scene where they're at dinner and they're like checking on each other's mental health. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really sweet, especially because I was thinking the whole time it's interesting to see, I know this might sound kind of stupid, but how alike the cultures are when it comes to grief.
Absolutely. I really liked that. Like, you understood what was going on between these family members the whole time. Yeah. And you actually felt similar to it. I liked that a lot.
And they weren't, staunch. There was actual emotion. It wasn't like, okay, just get over it. Because these are two men, and sometimes it's like, oh, get over it. We don't cry, da-da-da. But it clearly shows the struggles that they're going through and that they're, keep checking on each other. His son tells him at a dinner that he seems dispirited, is the word they use, and that he should remarry. Mm-hmm. And the dad thinks about this, and he's like, maybe I should remarry.
Yeah, it had been 7 years at that point? I think it was 7 years.
Yep, cuts to 7 years later.
So, yes,
is what I have written down. And he tells his colleague that he should remarry because his son said he seems dispirited. Mm-hmm. And he is a film producer. Mm-hmm. Or they are film producers. Yep. And so his colleague comes up with this, well, what kind of girl do you want? And he basically says, well, I want her to have skills. And specifically, he wants her to play piano or some kind of instrument.
Which is what his wife used to do.
Exactly.
So he wants to bring that back.
Exactly. Sing, dance, something musical and creative like that. And his friend says we should hold an audition, but make it seem like it's a film audition, but it's really an audition for your next wife.
Right.
Which is pretty fucked up, though.
It is. They lie to these women. That kind of sucks.
Yeah. But colleague...
He does say that they might actually make the movie. It just doesn't pass everything it needs to.
Right.
So, they were kind of trying to be honest.
Yeah. And he has these, basically, I wrote down files of women he's going through. And this one, even before the actual audition, really catches his eye. Mm-hmm. And it says that she was a ballet dancer for 18 years, but that she injured her hip. It basically, they had to write an essay, and it said it was like accepting death. And for some reason, that line really caught his attention.
This actress in real life was a model. She had never acted before. He just found her because she was beautiful. Makes sense in that respect.
That she was captivating.
Absolutely. Yeah. To this character. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They go to the actual audition, and it's just basically this long scene of all these women coming in. They're sitting in a chair, and they're asking them some questions. Some were invasive and about sex, and some were family questions and very lighthearted. And the auditions, I noticed, were every 10 minutes. So they're really quick. It's not like they're getting to know.
Right, but they kept running behind, too, so they're asking a lot of questions, obviously.
Right, and there was even one that, took her shirt off. She's like, hey, boobs. But you only see boobs really once in this movie, and it's just for a quick second. So it doesn't dwell on the whole sexual aspect to keep you interested, which I really like. So this woman's name is Asami?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And she comes in and she sits down and she says she's unemployed officially, but works in a bar like 3 nights a week for her friend. And she's very mild-mannered. She seems intelligent. And he tells her, Aoyama is the main character, that he was very impressed with her essay. And basically because she spoke so eloquently about her pain and her trial of being a ballet dancer and losing her dream. And she is in all white was the first thing I noticed. And that doesn't stop.
The whole film.
Every single outfit she's in, she's wearing all white. And
which really draws attention to her throughout the film. So that was a very good decision for the director to make.
Yeah. And you don't have to be like super film inclined to get that symbolism. Absolutely. You know, she's very soft spoken. They say that she is obedient and all of these things he's looking for in a wife. But his colleague said she walked out of the room and his colleague said she made me nervous and she made me want a cigarette.
Listen to your friend who is telling you she's creeping you out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if I were dating and you told me someone creeped you out, I would not be with them.
Yeah, because you should trust me.
Yes!
I would not tell you. I want you to be successful in love. Like, you know. So obviously your friends, because this guy's the one pushing for him to remarry.
Right.
So if he's like, dude, she's something creepy. Is off. She says she's represented by this man at this agency, at this music studio. They find out later that he's been missing for 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And somebody even tells this guy that's looking for this wife that, hey, you know, this might not be a big deal, but she said she was represented by this guy, and we looked into this guy, and he's been missing for like 1.5 years.
Exactly. And she just comes up with some plausible thing on why, you know, she didn't actually meet him in person. She was just told to use his name. And
well, I kind of lied. I haven't actually talked to him or seen him, but he was supposed to represent me. Whatever. But I think it really stuck out to me, like how soft-spoken she would make eye contact. They made her a meek character to begin with, which she's not.
Not at all.
Which we find out. It's a pretty predictable movie, but it's good.
Like, you know she's going to be the bad guy.
She's spooky.
But it's really good.
Yep. He calls her back that night because he's so excited about her and he wants to meet up with her again. And this is, I'm pretty sure he calls her back after he even finds out that she lied about knowing the music producer.
I think so.
And his colleague is encouraging him to continue to talk to all these different women, but he almost immediately decides, I only want her. I'm only interested in her. I don't care about any of the other ones.
You can tell he's really invested and fascinated with her.
Yep. And
I'm not going to say love, but he has met with her one-on-one in person. They have gone to lunch at this point, so he is kind of creating a little bit of a relationship with her. So there is some genuine care on his part.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, he even when he's going through her file before he actually meets her in person, he's like, something really drew him. I mean, he had, I would say, almost hundreds of these files,
of folders.
Yeah, with these photos of these women, and he just thumbs through and just stops on her, pulls her out, and all of a sudden, this is who he wants. And he was excited about her audition the whole time he was auditioning other women. He was waiting to see her.
He was tracking it as they would pass by people looking for her name.
Exactly. Even when Aoyama says, I'm only interested in her, his colleague is like, I don't know, something isn't right.
Yeah.
You should keep looking. Every single time he basically mentions being with her or being in love with her, somebody, this colleague mainly, is like, there is something really wrong here.
And he actually asks him not to talk to her
for
a little while. Don't call her for a few days. See if she is on the up and up. I mean, if you don't call someone for a few days and they are crazy, the crazy's gonna show.
Yeah.
So I get what his friend is doing.
Absolutely. And they can't find any information about her at all. They can't find the bar she works at. I mean, these are professional. This is a movie studio. They can't find any background information on her.
Right.
They can't find the bar that she works. The bar can't even be located where she says it is. And so he basically, he advises him to chill the fuck out. And then he says, okay, I'll calm down for a little while. I won't call her immediately. And it basically cuts to her
At least a few days later.
Yeah.
Like, how long has this been?
She's just sitting there, curled up in like a fetal position against the wall, and there's a phone right next to her. And what I'm going to call the body sack.
Yes.
It's
the
like
sack.
The sack.
It's just over there in the corner.
It's just sitting there in this frame, and like nothing's happening with it at first, so she's just sitting there hunched over. It's very typical like Grudge Ring-esque.
God, yes.
Her hair is
That's
just
why
draped.
I hate it so much.
Her hair is just like draped over her. She's hunched over, and she's literally just been sitting by the phone for what they make seem like days,
just
waiting for this call.
Yep. I
literally wrote down, he finally cracks and he calls her, and pretty much as the phone rings, the bag fucking moves.
And she's still not picking the phone up, but it's obviously causing a problem because the bag rolls across the floor.
Yeah.
And then it switches scenes.
So I thought it was a body, but no. Whoever is in that bag or whatever is in that bag is alive. So she's keeping it.
Yes.
As like a really fucked up pet.
Yeah.
And
do you think maybe it might be the music producer that's been missing for a year and a half?
You think?
No,
maybe?
No way.
And so I said, the bag fucking moved. There's a person in there. WTF in my notes. And so he starts courting her. They start going to dinners, and they start, talking more on the phone, and
it moves really fast.
It does move really fast.
I know it's a different culture, so I can't say anything for that. Maybe it does move that fast there. Probably does. I don't know. It felt like really fast to me. And the son seemed okay with it.
Yeah, the son's like, you should probably get remarried. And then he holds this audition. And then he courts her. It shows like 2 or 3 times they go out to lunch/dinner. And then he tells his son that she's only 24.
Which is also crazy.
And his son's probably like 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And this guy's probably in his like, I'd say late 40s, early 50s. Or maybe even mid 50s.
Yeah.
And his son is like, oh, okay, cool. Good on you, Dad. It's like,
and he originally even said he didn't want anybody too young. That seemed to me like too young. I figured what he meant was like late 20s, early 30s. So that seemed very young to me.
Yeah, it definitely, and everybody's fine with it.
Yeah,
it's
and
cool.
His son even talks, are you going to propose to her? And the father goes, I'm going to propose to her and then you'll meet her later. Wait. You're okay with proposing to a woman that your son's never even met?
And the son's like, oh, cool.
I don't get that one at all.
He says he's going to propose on this weekend trip.
Yes.
Yeah.
His son's never met her. No. Oh, different cultures. I get it.
But it may not even be that. It
That's
may
true.
just be, and the film may have been set up like, we're going to get through all this, like, oh, okay, we're not going to span this over a year. She's going to be crazy immediately, and he's going to be in love with her immediately, or whatever. So it cuts to this weekend trip that he's supposed to propose to her. And he's just sitting there in their hotel room, like, oh, what should we do before dinner?
I hated this whole scene.
Because you were creeped out?
She's so creepy.
Yeah, but she's taking her clothes off, so who cares,
she's
Kristin?
so robotic about it. She's like walking over to him, very robotic, turns the light off, walks back
and
to the bed.
And he's just talking about what they're going to do for dinner.
Yes.
And the chef, like, he's just making conversation.
She starts stripping,
She turns away from him and just starts unbuttoning, and he's like, so, you don't want to go to dinner?
Yeah. And then she lays on the bed, puts a sheet over herself, and says, I want you to see all of me.
She calls him to bed and asks him to come to her, but to not take off his clothes yet, to just look at her body. And she's under the covers, and it very slowly pans from her feet, and she's pulling this sheet up, and it stops right before you see the bits.
Yes.
Right. Like literally right before. And so on her upper thighs, there are these 2, I thought they were really deep scars from cuts.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah, she just tells him she burnt herself when she was little, and that she wants him to know all of her and see all of her, which that could be right out of a rom-com. It's the way that she is that's creepy. It's not necessarily what she's saying, because if you were to put, let's say, like, I don't know, Liam Hemsworth and like some other like rom-com actress, and they said these same things, it'd be different. But this woman is crazy.
Yeah, it's not like showing when you tried to kill yourself on your wrists and trying to let someone understand that. No, it's super creepy.
Yeah.
And then they sleep together, and from there on out, the rest of the movie, is fucking crazy. That's all I'm going to say. It's
and
crazy.
I literally quoted too, and I made sure I got this quote right. Before they have sex, she says, "Please love me. Only me.
Yep.
Only me. Only me," over and over.
Yep.
And I texted you and I was like, oh, she means like he can't love his kid, he can't love his dead wife, he can't have any friends,
Nobody.
he can't have a dog, nothing. Like,
just her.
Just her.
Fucking
but
crazy.
Of course, he thought like, oh yeah, I'm not going to cheat on you.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
And she goes and says,
I think he does love her at this point.
yeah, absolutely. And she's like, all men have been the same, and they say they'll only love me, but they never do. And he's like, oh wow, those men are assholes. I would never cheat on you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
no,
well,
that's not what she means.
No, that's not what she means. And after sex, he wakes up and she's gone.
Yep.
And she just totally disappears, and it just cuts back to him and his colleague.
And he's stressed at this point.
Yeah,
you can definitely feel it.
Absolutely. And he says she's disappeared. He can't contact her, and he decides to look for her on his own. He's going to go out and look for her, and his colleague says, I am not helping you find her. I think you need to bail.
Exactly.
And that's when it gets intense, because they actually kind of fight about this, because he's basically like, fine, I'll do it without you, and slams the door, and the colleague is like, please don't do this.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with her.
He knows. He feels that she's crazy.
Yep. And then this is where it gets really hard to explain, because you don't know if what's happening is a hallucination, a dream, if it's her memory,
if it's real and we're just looking into the past. Who knows what's going on?
Because it cuts to this, he's walking to this ballet studio.
Yes.
Where she used to
dance,
take classes. Yeah. And it's run down, it's boarded up, but you hear this faint piano music playing. And he walks in, and there's this old man in a wheelchair.
How did the old man in the wheelchair get in this boarded up place?
He literally has to take boards off them.
How did he get in there?
I don't know, unless he's just not... But it's literally an empty room with a piano. It's not like there's a fridge in the corner and a cot on the floor, you know? And I was also thinking... So everyone knows that it's Japanese culture to take off your shoes when you enter a place. And I was thinking, oh, this is all hardwood. What happens if you start running with socks on? You're going to fall. You're going to slide across the floor. So I was like, ooh. I never thought about that in, like, Japanese horror films. Imagine how hard it would be to take off running on hardwood floor with socks on.
I've never thought of that before.
Yeah,
now
it's awful.
Now it's going to, like...
I can't even walk in my kitchen without sliding across the floor. So if I was really trying to get away from somebody, that would be... Anyways. Side note, but... He asks if it's Mr. Shimada, which I think is the music producer that went missing.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But you don't know if it is or not at this point.
Right.
I immediately was like, oh shit, it's the music producer. She's been keeping him hostage in this room. And he asks, have you smelled her? Have you tasted her? Have you touched her? All these like really weird things. And he basically just laughs and he's like, go home. Go home. You need to go home.
Yep. There's
some crazy ass person right there telling you to bail.
She's fucking crazy.
And he's obviously fucking crazy. So if you've got a crazy person that's like...
Get away from the other crazy person. Yeah.
You should run.
Yeah.
One thing in this movie that I kind of liked and I disliked was everyone's telling him to go and he's like, no, no, no. So it's like, it's kind of annoying because it's like, you're so stupid. But then there's a reason, like, why is she so enticing? There's something about her because you find out later that he's not the only one.
Right, she's done this multiple times and people are fascinated with her.
Yeah. And so what is that? What is so alluring about it? Is it her mystery? Is it her obedience? Is her shyness, meekness, whatever the case may be? So it's just interesting. Why can't he shake this girl off? I mean, his wife died. He's gotten over worse things than losing a girlfriend.
I feel like she's just such a chameleon to the people that she finds. Yeah. Because you find out later that maybe not everything she's saying is on the up and up.
There's literally none of it.
Exactly. There's a lot of things where she says one thing and then you find out something else, but it could also be a third thing. Yeah. So I feel like she probably just shows these men what they want.
Yeah, exactly what they want. Well, she's obviously a master manipulator.
Yes. Because
she's gotten every single one of her victims to fall head over heels for her.
Yes.
Pretty much right off the bat. So while he's at this ballet studio, it cuts to what you think is her childhood, what it's painting as her childhood.
Right.
And you see her dancing. She's probably like 8, 9, 10, something like that. And you see this man that was in the wheelchair. She all of a sudden is sitting on the ground with her legs spread open. And he takes these burned like metal, and he basically brands her, right?
Yeah.
On her upper thighs and between her legs. And that's all you get. That's all it shows you.
We don't know why.
Or who this is.
I mean, okay, assuming that she's a little girl and that he's doing this because he's a pedophile. Most pedophiles are just gonna rape that little girl. Why is he burning her on her thighs?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
Yeah.
What is going on?
And it doesn't...
You don't get an answer.
Yeah. And you get a little bit more insight towards the end, but right there you're just like, who the fuck? Why the fuck?
Exactly.
That's all you get. And so then it cuts back to him, and he is now going to go to the bar that she supposedly works at.
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes, and he meets this man in this building, and he's basically like, oh yeah, the bar has been closed for over a year, and the owner was murdered and chopped up. And not only that, but the police found 3 extra fingers, an ear, and a tongue.
Yes.
Just...
So, how many people has she killed, tortured, kidnapped, whatever term you want to use? How many people has she done this to? Because we're talking at least 2 right there.
And it has to be incredibly professional because she's maybe like 120 pounds.
Yeah.
And these are big men.
Yes.
So, I mean, you find out, we'll get to it, kind of what her methods are.
Mm-hmm.
But, dude,
yes.
that is some precision. Yes. And I admire it, personally.
This movie picks up really fast.
It does. So it's like an hour and like 20 minutes of build up and them establishing their relationship. And then
that last half an hour just
immediately.
Goes.
So after he finds out about this murder at this bar,
mm-hmm.
he's a little sketched out.
Right.
Obviously.
He's starting to feel creeped out.
He's starting to question her. Yeah.
Finally.
I mean, if somebody said, we can't find any information on her, this bar doesn't even exist, this music producer has been missing, I would immediately be like, oh, she's bad news.
Yep.
We should call the cops, first of all.
Exactly.
Have her looked into. But it cuts back to his house, and this whole movie has got little scenes where they're playing with their family dog, or they make it a point to show the dog, and you know his name, and it cuts to, he's basically got like a maid, somebody that comes out and helps him clean his house and, you know, cooks for him sometimes. And it cuts to her feeding the dog, and then she leaves. And then I literally wrote down, oh no.
Yeah,
not the dog.
It's a horror movie, so...
And it's not like the Blob.
It's not like the Blob. It's not going to be nice to the poor puppy.
So she breaks into the house, and this is where I thought the cinematography got interesting, because it cuts from her view to third person, and that's the only time in the movie that it really does this. Mm-hmm. It goes to her, and you're seeing it through her eyes, and she goes into his study and sees the picture of his wife. Yes. And then you immediately know, okay, she's pissed.
Yeah, she throws a fit.
Yeah,
in his house.
Yeah, fucks it all up.
Yes.
And then she sees his bottle of scotch, and that's really the last thing you see her see.
Yep.
His son doesn't come home that night. You hear him leave a message on the machine.
He's staying in a friend's house.
He's staying in a friend's
mm-hmm.
house. And then he comes home, and he sits in his chair, and you can tell he's mulling things over, and he's really concerned. And he starts drinking his scotch, and then you quickly figure out that he's been drugged.
Yes.
And then as he passes out, there's either like a flashback, hallucination, dream.
Yeah, whatever is going on.
Insight to her life. You kind of get to know her a little bit through these. And I'm not saying anything justifies it, but you kind of get like a glimpse into her past. If it's real.
Exactly. If it's even real.
If it's real. And the flashback, she's talking about her family, and she was sent to her uncle's house after her parents divorced, and she was abused. She was forced into ice cold baths and got pneumonia. She was pushed downstairs, and she broke bones. And then her doctors started to notice this and sent her back to her mother. But her mother had remarried, and her stepfather apparently hated her. And all day until her mother got home, she would sit in a dark room and do nothing mm-hmm. because her stepfather hated her. And when she's talking about all this abuse, she basically says ballet purified her darkness, and it was the only reason she didn't kill herself.
Which creeps me out. Not that she didn't kill herself, because that's cool. There's lots of people that choose something that brings them out of darkness like that, but purified her darkness.
That's why I have it in quotes right here.
That's creepy.
Yeah, I literally have it in quotes, purified her darkness. And while she's saying all this to him while he's having a hallucination of them at dinner, basically. Mm-hmm. And in this dream hallucination, whatever you want to call it, he sees a table of his family, his deceased wife and his son, and his wife turns to him and says, she is no good for you. She isn't good for you. So even you're even having hallucinations of your dead wife telling you to run. At this point, he's passed out. He's immobilized. It's too late.
Exactly, sadly.
And then it cuts to this random blowjob scene. Do you remember the blowjob scene?
Where, like, every woman he knows tries to go down on him.
So there's this secretary, and she's in the beginning saying, hey, I'm getting married, like, trying to get his attention, and she tries to get his attention a couple times. So it clues you in that he has slept with her.
Yeah.
And then it's Asami is starting out this blowjob sequence. I'm sorry for all our family. And this, basically it turns into all the girls that you've seen in this movie, even his son's girlfriend.
Yep.
And he's starting to get like, oh my God, freaked out. And he's imagining himself or seeing himself or whatever this sequence is in her house where you saw her sitting by the phone. And after all these
the bag.
Blowjob or whatever is happening there, you see the body sack. And once he sees it, he trips over it, and then all the girls disappear. And this man emerges like an animal. And he is, guess what? Missing 3 fingers, an ear, and his tongue. So he's literally just like...
And his feet.
Right. She's cut those clean off. He can't do anything. And she comes in...
He can't leave her?
No. She comes in and she has a bowl and she feeds him like a dog.
But what you're missing is that what she's doing in the kitchen is vomiting into this bowl.
Yes.
And then she feeds that vomit to him.
Baby birding it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yes.
And then it shows this guy that you saw in the wheelchair at the ballet studio, which made me think that he might have been the crazy uncle that abused her. But again, you never get clarity because it cuts to the crazy uncle saying, dance for me, you bitch. I'll torture you as usual. So it could have
Does that mean that the uncle is the dance instructor? Is he the same guy? Is he
a
different guy?
You don't know.
Who is this?
You don't know.
Does
he just like her? Does he like watching her dance?
Exactly.
Is he really a pedophile? You just don't know. It never mentions anything about her being sexually abused, just physically abused.
Right.
And so it's him taunting her, and then she just fucking goes over there and take some piano wire. And this is when also I want to mention about the direction of the scenes. When she starts torturing people, the expressions on her face, the
so
acting,
happy.
It is pure joy.
Yes.
It is ecstasy. And she cuts, I thought she was just going to cut his throat because she just kind of moved it back and forth. But then she just cuts his head clean off with the piano wire.
She's having so much fun in that whole scene.
Yep. But then it cuts back to him on the floor. And he's like half conscious at this point. And this scene, I will have to warn you, if you're an animal lover, I saw this, and I'm sitting in bed with my dog, and I'm like, oh my God, she turned that dog's head clean around.
Yes. You don't see the death, so if that's what bothers you, it's not that part of it, but you do see the dead body.
Yeah, and it's pretty nasty. I mean,
it's
gruesome.
horrible.
Yeah.
I hate the animal deaths, but it could have been worse, I guess.
So then crazy bitch emerges in the living room. And she injects him with a paralyzing agent, so he can't really move or fight her. He can move a little bit, but she injects it into his tongue.
And she flat out tells him that he can feel everything, he just can't move. It heightens the pleasure of the torture.
For her. The first thing she fucking does is she takes these, I don't know if they look like...
They're acupuncture needles.
That's what I was going to say. They look like acupuncture needles. They're really long, but she shoves them into like the tenderest part.
She shoves them really deep into the tenderest
They're
parts
not
of your
just
body.
like right there in your skin. She's shoving them into the most tender parts of his stomach, and she even makes a point to say, I bet that hurts, doesn't it? Or something like that.
And I love how she swabs his stomach so he doesn't get an infection.
She sterilizes him.
You're going to torture him, possibly kill him, but oh no, we don't want an infection.
We don't want sepsis.
What the? What?
Well, because what if she wants to keep him alive? You can't go septic and just stay alive for tortures.
That's true.
And before she does this, she says, I have this in quotes too, words create lies. Pain can be trusted. I was like, oof.
Crazy.
Again, twoo. But, dude. And then I thought, so it was so funny. I was watching this back the bedroom, and Brad was about to go ref a hockey game, so he came back to get his stuff, and right when he walks in, she's shoving these acupuncture needles in that little thin skin right underneath your eyeball, and he was like, "Oh, what is this?" I was like, "I told you to come watch it with me."
So Eli Roth actually watched this movie, and he took it as part of his view for Hostel, honestly. And you can definitely see it in the fact that she's still in white, but she's got this intense apron on.
Oh yeah, so she's ready.
Yes, so she doesn't get blood on it, which is just like in Hostel.
Laid out like a
she's got all her tools ready. Yeah. She's got him on this blanket, not to leave blood anywhere, which doesn't matter later, but
yeah. And she also says after she sticks these needles right below, I thought she was sticking them in his eyes, and at that point I was like, oh my god. Not that underneath them is much better, but right after that she says, you only know who you are by going through pain and suffering. So she's going to make him suffer.
Absolutely.
And then this would be the worst part for me if I was a parent. I'm not, but if I was a parent, she says, your son has to feel pain too.
Yep.
You love your son, but you only love me, right? And then she takes out her fucking piano wire.
Wait. Back it up first. Okay. I'm sorry. Gotta continue with the acupuncture needles. She puts them in his stomach, and then she's like straddling him.
Oh, yeah.
And she slides up his body so that the acupuncture needles bend and shove more into his body. That is horrific.
But also kind of awesome. I don't mean like, listen, I'm not saying that I would go and do that, but it's like if you're in a movie like that, like you want to see like some creative
It was very, very creative. Yes, I agree. But
awesome.
Oh my god, putting yourself in that?
Yeah, no.
How horrible.
No. I couldn't.
Okay.
But then the piano wire
piano wire is even worse.
And she takes it and she puts these little
chains around his leg?
It's like a bracket looking kind of thing around his, right above where she does it, and she takes it and she wraps it around his foot and she just starts sawing.
And she has to brace herself.
Right. Yeah. She starts sawing his foot off, and it's so funny because she's so meticulous about her cleanliness, and she's wearing an apron, and then she cuts his foot off and she just throws it against his glass sliding window.
Yes, with blood just everywhere.
And she's like, hey, just tosses it. That. You just see a thud against the glass, and you're like, ooh, his foot is no longer a part of her. And again, on the camera angles and the cinematography in this, when she's sawing his foot off, she looks happier than she has in the entire movie. It is just, this is what makes her happy. This is joy. This is, like I said,
absolutely.
Ecstasy.
She's having so much fun.
And I love.
She's like a little girl.
It made it fun to watch.
It's a horror movie. We all know it's
y'all
fake.
All know
right
we
here.
Creepy bitches already, but dude,
yes.
I thought it was so fun to watch her just being like, oh my god, this is so fun, and then his foot just comes clean off. But then the son comes home early in the middle of this torture session, and at first she's put off, but then she's like, she gets this little spray bottle out and she's like, bring it on. So he sees his son come in, and then it cuts away again. He's somewhere else. He's hallucinating how things basically could have gone differently or something like that. So he wakes up at the hotel after they had sex, but instead of her being gone, she's still there, and he's relieved.
He's fucking scared, though.
Oh, yeah.
I would be. I wouldn't be around her anymore if that was just a dream. No.
Yeah, your dreams try to tell you shit, too.
I was say, break up with her right now.
Yeah. And so he's like, oh my god, we're laying in bed. She turns her over. She accepts his proposal. It's all very sweet.
I love when he checks to see if he has feet in his dream. That's like my favorite
He touches his feet. He's like, whew.
He's got it under the blanket and then pulls it up.
I got the feets. And then it cuts back to, he's washing his face and he's relieved, and she's like, oh, what's wrong? And he's like, nothing. And then it cuts back to the torture scene.
Well, first of all, so we forgot to mention that she's been making this sound. It's like creak, 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 creak. She's making that sound that whole time while she's torturing him. So when he thinks he's waking up and they're back in the hotel room, he's like, okay, I'm going to get over this. It's going to be fine. And then she walks in the bathroom with him and she makes that fucking sound again. She goes, creak, 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 creak. And that's when he wakes up.
Didn't even notice that. I didn't even know to mention it because I didn't even notice it. So good on you. I missed that. But it cuts back to this torture scene, and she's spraying his son in the face with. You don't really know. I'm assuming it's something like
bear spray. Okay, yeah, maybe that makes sense.
Either way, something to debilitate him.
Yes.
Either knock him out, like chloroform,
or hurt his
just
eyes so
knock
he
him on
can't
his
see.
ass.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And yes, the son really saves this.
He's amazing.
He runs up the stairs, which first of all I was like, don't fucking run out the door. Don't run up the stairs, because in like Scream, all these horror movies, they're like, I'm gonna go corner myself to where I can't get out. But she goes up after him and he kicks her down the stairs and completely. You think she might be dead or she's knocked out or something of the sort.
Or maybe she's not because it's a horror movie and she's gonna lunge. You know.
Well, she talks later.
She does.
In a minute, she talks.
What the fuck happened with her neck, though? I'm just.
Well, it kind of. I don't know if it like broke her neck
It's
and
like
it was
bent
like
at a
turned
weird angle
around
and like twitching or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Creeped me out. Like she's laying there. She had stopped talking, and she's laying there dead, we presume, and her neck is still twitching, and it's like.
I don't know, because there's nothing supernatural about this movie.
No,
it's all just a horrible torture crazy bitch movie. But the son calls the police.
Smart.
Yeah, and it ends basically, he sees her, he's still debilitated on the floor, and he kind of is looking over at where her body is, and then she starts talking and reciting all the lines that he fell for.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's basically how it ended, of her reciting all the lines that he fell for that ended him in this position. But it does end with him being alive. The only casualty in this family was the dog. Unfortunately.
But who knows how many people she had killed before.
Oh yeah, we at least know of 2.
So you're left with a lot of questions in this movie.
Oh yeah.
And I found this movie because of Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments. That's how I found it. And when I originally watched it years ago, I kind of hated the fact that you had so many questions. When I rewatched it this time, I understood it more. Because you have all these questions because the main character has all these questions. Yeah. He doesn't know her. She's been lying about so many things. He doesn't know who she is. So you don't know who she is.
Yeah.
And I liked that little touch.
I think when you're a horror fan and you've grown up a horror fan, you stop needing those answers.
Absolutely.
You know, you just start accepting things. There are some movies that I'm like, what the hell was that? And I'm pissed.
Right.
Like, come on. But this one's not one of those. You're just like, oh shit, that was a wild ride.
Yes.
And it's a good one. This is one of Quentin Tarantino's favorite films.
That's great.
Yeah.
He's a crazy dude too.
Yeah.
Love it.
And Rob Zombie. He found it, he said, the most creepy and unsettling horror movie he'd ever watched. And that was at that time.
That's a lot coming from
Rob
both
Zombie.
of those men, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have Reservoir Dogs where, he cuts some dude's ear off and talks into it. And then you have just Rob Zombie. All of his horror movies. You have all of that stuff in those men like this one.
Yeah. And for Eli Roth to take so much for that movie. I mean, Hostel, I couldn't even finish Hostel, to be honest. I love gory and torture, but I just the Achilles tendon thing, I'm out.
Yeah,
I was
it
done.
Gets worse after that.
Yeah, I figured. And now granted, I haven't watched it since like middle school, so I could probably watch it now and be like, ugh.
Well, it'll be on our list eventually. We'll watch it.
We actually had, before we even started this podcast, we were like, we love horror so much. Let's do something together with it. We had the 100 best horror movies of each year since horror had been a genre, according to Rotten Tomatoes. And we also had I don't know where we got this list, but it was like the most disturbing movies ever made, and Audition was on it.
Yes, it was. And
the only one I think we got to was Antichrist before we started this podcast.
We watched another one about a serial killer.
We did. I
don't remember his name. But
Portrait of a Serial Killer, right?
Yeah, but Henry Lee Lucas, Portrait of a Serial Killer. That was really disturbing because of the rape and stuff in it. But we're not talking about that movie.
Yeah. Don't watch that movie if you are sensitive, or really any of the It seems like all the disturbing movies are about sex torture.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So trigger warning, like don't watch those because it is very triggering.
So this movie was actually shot in 3 weeks, which...
Really?
3 weeks.
That's less than Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I was like, so when we were talking about The Exorcist in the beginning, The Exorcist took 6 months, I'm pretty sure.
The Exorcist took over a year.
Okay. But I think shooting was only 6 months, right?
6 months. They had a lot of problems on set because it was haunted.
Okay.
Okay,
so The Exorcist took over a year. This movie took 3 weeks. Just think of how fast they had to do that. That's crazy to me.
I cannot. Don't want to. And
it was done amazingly.
the only reason it's hard to think about is because these movies are so emotionally draining to make. I mean, imagine doing this in 3 weeks and the content you're creating. Absolutely. How difficult that is on you, and especially on these torture scenes physically, and you know, I know obviously he's not actually being tortured, but he has to put himself in that mindset in order to act it well.
Absolutely.
So something me as a little emo kid really loved, I didn't actually know this until I was kind of looking into the movie, but the music video for the first single for My Chemical Romance, bless, it was Honey, This Mirror Isn't Big Enough for the Two of Us, had a very similar storyline to this movie, but with a different ending.
Interesting.
So the 2006 to 2008 Amanda that wore literally like black eyeshadow from the bags of my eyes to my eyebrows, loved that. And it is included in the 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die by Steven Schneider. So,
really?
Yeah, I mean, it's really not as gory as like Hostel. It's not gory just to be gory.
You don't see the torture.
No.
I mean, it talks about being such a torturous movie. You don't see it. You don't see her putting the needles in his eyes. You don't see her cutting his foot off. You see the wire and she throws his foot later.
You just see the bliss in her face while she's doing it, and you can hear things. So it's really, yes, it is a disturbing film, but is it a film that is going to, at least for me, it's not like I couldn't sleep or that I had weird dreams, because I do dream a lot and very vividly, especially when I watch these films.
Which you're going to talk about episodes later. We're eventually going to get to those, you guys.
Yeah, I gotta buy a dream journal. But so it's definitely a movie that I think if you're a horror fan and you're okay with gore, even if you're okay with just some gore and you're not all in for blood and guts, there's no real guts or anything like that in this movie.
Even blood, it's just a quick flash of his foot being thrown.
Yeah.
It's like a splatter of blood. Could have been ketchup.
Yeah. So if you put yourself in the position of the main character, though, that's when it really gets terrifying.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's a fun movie to watch. And I think the cool thing and kind of the daunting thing about watching foreign films is, you know, reading the subtitles, because you have to be into it. Absolutely. Like I said, I couldn't even take notes because I had to be staring at the screen the whole time. Yeah. And that also lends to more understanding. You don't miss things.
Exactly. I'm one of those people who I hate just staring at the TV unless I have to with like a foreign film. I like doing other things during it.
Right.
But with this, you have to be prepared to stare at it.
Yeah. So really enjoyed this movie. For me, I'd probably say like a 3.5 out of 5, only because of I thought that there was like a little too much not exciting stuff. I wanted to see a little bit more.
Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely. This holds a special place in my heart as one of my Japanese horror starters. So I'd probably give it a little bit more. Maybe just a flat 4, but I wouldn't give it a 5.
See, I'd never even heard of this movie until you told me to watch it. So I think if I had that, I'd seen it when I was younger, it'd be higher on my list too.
Absolutely.
So next week, you want to play a game?
Until then, stay creepy.